You want to use choose columns to place columns 1 and 3 into a new list. What am I talking about? Excel's tools that were released in 2022. But here's the output. You're handcuffed. Let me show you how to work around and figure this out. Stay tuned. Brad Williams, Excel Prime. This is one of many tutorials that I have produced. This is the introduction to the array manipulation. The key thing here, one, this is Office 365. It is a wobbly nightmare of a working situation. I'm typically on the desktop Excel 2021. So there's going to be some bumps and bruises as we work through here. A couple key critical things. I don't use the word array. I don't use the word dynamic, and I use active. That's key number one. Two, I use F9. Hit down here, you see where it says hit F9. I use F9 purely for tutorial purposes only. We're just going to see a whole host of changes. When you run into a nightmare situation like this within Excel, as I said, this Office 365 is junk to me. It's inconsistent. When you run into a problem like this, just go in and highlight within the cell. You're going to get the output. There are so many bugs and they're not features here within Excel. In addition, you're going to see a lot of spill-related situations throughout the tutorials within this array manipulation. And I'll point out the problems within Excel. With this random, I use random data. Microsoft 365 just can't deal with it. Can't deal with duplicates. And we'll just work through it. Here's my setup. Anything in light green is the list. Anything in dark green is the answer. Over here to your right is called the list. This will be the anatomy of this particular structure. What we're trying to do, using, in this particular case, choose columns, we're going to place columns 1 and 3 into this new list. Then we're going to do the same thing, place columns 1 and 3 using choose call with a sequence feature. Two different anatomies, two different outcomes. Here's the layout. Here's the formula. Right here in I5 is the formula. Here's the syntax. Here's the layout. If you're confused, you're going to have to work through this piece by piece. Now, what really sucks within this Microsoft 365 is we can't go in to the formula bar. You know, in the past, if you're familiar with my previous tutorials, we could go in and we could hit F9 within this array and it would give us this data within this list. Not so with Excel's Office 365 or Microsoft 365. Here, you're going to have to break out a microscope and you're just going to have to go through, and you can see where B5 to D16 is highlighted in green here. It's pathetic, but I wouldn't expect anything less from Excel or Microsoft. Move over one, it's going to point out, and it's hard to see. You can see that there's a slight color change. It's green, column number 1, and then 3 is going to be, that's just going to go column 3. It's going to be column number 2. Over here, it's pretty much what I dissected. And if we go in to this other formula, we go down here, we can go through and play this game again, array, and then you can see the sequence, and it doesn't tell you exactly what the column number is. So you're gonna have to do a lot of guesswork here. That's why I put in the anatomy. And over here is the write-up. It's a summary of what we're attempting to accomplish. And with that being said, here we go. Choose columns. That's all we're doing. In the past, we'd have to do all kinds of stuff to move data from one column over to a new column. But here, this nifty tool, choose columns, allows us to pick the array, then whatever columns we want. Over here, Excel's choose columns function returns selected columns from a list or a range. You're going to see in the list, it's an exchange for array. I just don't like using that word array. Why? Because Excel's trying to get away from array, but then they bury everything with the word array. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I just try to refer to this data over here in this B5 to D16. This is a list. You can call it a range. You can call it an array. I'm calling it a list. Do as you want. Excel's choose column function returns selected columns from a list or a range. The columns to return are stated in separate arguments as numbers. Each number refers to the column index. What am I talking about? Here in the anatomy, 1, that's column 1, column 3. Choose columns always returns a single list that spills. Choose column always returns a single list that spills onto the page. The list is the first output to the choose columns function. List may be a range or another formula list. Additional arguments, you can list as many columns as you want. You see here in column 2. In another tutorial, I'll show 7 different columns that or 4 different columns we're gonna play around with. To reverse this, we're gonna use this choose columns. We could do this in reverse if we want. Here, what we're gonna do, and I'll show you. Here is place columns 1 through 3 in reverse order. What does that mean? You see where we have in column 3, we have apple, avocado. I took all 3 columns and put them in reverse. Here, if you look, apple, avocado's in 3, now it's in 1. Coffee, it's in column 2. And then olive is in 3. How do we do this? Choose columns, list fruits. Notice name range. B5 to D16. We could use the cell reference. Here, we use the list fruits. You won't see too many examples in this array manipulation tutorial or in the text manipulation tutorial. We're going to use sequence, then we're going to use columns. I'm not going to delve too terribly deep into this. I'm hoping that you've taken the previous tutorials, that you're familiar with the workings on how to manipulate the columns, what that means. If not, dig a little deeper. Check out my other tutorials on the structural breakdown, or as I used, formula, or you can go to my very, very beginning tutorials and it'll give you a breakdown, just the basics of understanding of Excel, the implementation of the various tools. But I'm not going to delve too deep into that. I'm going to go quickly through this entire deal. This is entirely driven off of this Excel Microsoft 365. Be sure to check out all of our Excel courses. Excel data and text manipulation. We have an advanced beginners and intermediate course. Excel essentials. This is for individuals new to Excel. We have an advanced, excellent beginners, level 1 and level 2, and intermediate level course. Excel formulas, formulas only. We have a beginner, an advanced, and an intermediate level course. Click on any of the links. There's a short video that explains everything about the course. Check it out. Can't use Excel 2021 or any desktop models. We're forced to use this. And I went online, and this is the free version. So for those of you who don't want to upgrade and pay that subscription fee, just go online, sign up for a free Microsoft 365, and you'll have access. It's limited, and it is full of, there's some more bugs than you can count in the Amazon during the heavy rains. It's ridiculous, but we're stuck with it, so we have to make do with what we have. Work through it. There's not a lot to work through. You're just gonna have to familiarize yourself. This tutorial is about understanding the anatomy, understanding all of the different characteristics of these different functions. And there's about 19 different functions. And essentially what Excel's done is they packaged probably 25, maybe 50 different functions, and they try to jam them into these 19. So there's going to be a lot of stuff within these functions, a lot of arguments, and you're going to have to familiarize yourself with those. And that's the key here. Excel's trying to take away any thinking. They just want you to do rote grunt work and just plug in the numbers. So that's basically the structure of this particular tutorial. And Brad Williams, Excel Prime. Thanks for watching. Mousetrap I'm talking about to use these tools is Excel and Microsoft are going to force us to use their 365 version. Now there's a free online version, but it's limited, so eventually you're going to end up having to pay Microsoft.